What's going on, everyone? It's Bowles, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Forecast. Hope you're doing well on this Friday afternoon. Hang on, that's just straighten it up. There we go. Here in my mouth. Oh, I hate that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me for another episode. We have got plenty to discuss today. We've got the Whitfield and Jack Steele issues, which I'll delve into in a bit more detail as well, about what you should be looking at doing with those two. Got also review all the games as well, and then we'll also go and preview all the games and review. I already said that, and look at all your questions and what you've got going on with your team. So if you are watching live, make sure you get your question in the live chat. I'll get to them once we've reviewed all the games. I think you've already got a couple of questions there, so I'll get to those. Adam, James, Maylee, and Moonboy. Get to them towards the end. But thank you very much for tuning in. I just want to give a shout out to all you guys as well. We reached 400 subscribers. We're currently up to 408. So what was it, like 26 subscribers from the Calvin video on the weekend. So thank you very much for all the support you guys have left on there. I think it was like 32 likes, saying it was like double the views than normal. So I do appreciate all the support you guys show. If you can smash the like on the video as well, that does really help out. It takes 2 seconds. And then also, if you haven't subscribed yet, get in on the action. We're close to 500. We're getting on to 92 away. So if you can help out, that'd be very much appreciated. So thank you very much for that. And if you haven't checked out the video with Calvin, check it out, because it was quite funny. So a couple of jokes and definitely some interesting things in terms of what to look at this week. You can still go and watch that. Still a lot of relevant information. So go and check that one out. So let's get stuck into the games coming up on the weekend. So I don't know why I said weekend, but I said it differently. But anyway, let's get stuck in. So the very first game is tonight, Carlton versus Sydney at Marvel Stadium. So if I get my notes, go to scroll up to the top. Here we go. So Carlton and Sydney. Here we go. Finally found it. Paddy Crips. So had his first quiet game for the year with only a 76 last week. So he still had 26 disposals, which is still good. He was still getting his hands on the ball. He just didn't have the impact around the ground. Didn't have a lot of marks. Didn't have a lot of tackles. Didn't kick a goal. I think it was his first full game of the season where he didn't kick a goal. But he'll be fine. He was playing a lot more in the ruck than obviously what we're used to. So I don't think that'll continue long term. So I think that'll eventually he'll just become straight mid again. So he'll be fine. Against Sydney, he's got a good record. He scored a 120 against them last season. He doesn't average over 100 against too many opponents, because obviously he's had a couple of down years, some poor scores against teams. So, but he does average, what was it against Sydney? I think it was like 103 in his career against Sydney, I think. Let me have a look. In his 9 career games, averages 103.4. So he's got a good record. The only other team I see averages 100 here is the Crows. So should be good tonight, and he's not a bad VC option if you want to go a little bit different to a guy like Callum Mills. So, yeah, he should be good tonight. Chad Warner. So people speaking about going Jack Steele down to a Sarong or a Chad Warner or someone of that caliber in that range. So a lot of people will probably go for Sarong because he's got back-to-back big scores of 112 and 124, I think it is. So Chad Warner's a decent pod option to that. So priced at 721K, I think it's essentially the same as Sarong. I think Sarong might be like maybe 2K cheaper. I think is Sarong 719. Yeah, 719. So it's 2K cheaper. He's got Warner's got 400s in a row. He's got to break him to 58. Just depends what works for your buys. If you need a round 14 buy guy, then I think Sarong's your guy because he's got the round 14 buy, whereas Chad Warner's got the round 13 buy. So, yeah, it really just depends what works better for your buys. But Chad Warner is a good pot alternative to that. He's played really well. Obviously, as I said, 400s in a row. He just looks a really good player. So you can definitely look at him as someone there. Not a move I would make. I would preferably go up to a Bont or a Wines around the 800K mark and find a little bit more money. Or if you've got money to get like a Hewitt or a Zorko or someone like that, I'd probably do that instead. But if you're looking at something like this, a guy that allows you to your buys, you can flick them off at your buys, then that's definitely something you can look at doing with Chad Warner. And then Callum Mills. So after scoring a poor 76 in round 8, bounced back massive with a 156 last week. 3 of his last 4 games, 130 plus, and 2 of them obviously a 150 and a 160. So he's just getting it done. He's the best player in the comp in terms of fantasy scoring at the moment, clearly. if you've got Jack Steele, there is definitely merit to paying up for Callum Mills because he's a captain option every week. He gets it done. I think he's priced at like an average of 117. So that's very, very expensive, right? So I'm not sure I'd be paying that much money for Mills unless I needed a big premium defender, but because I'm a bit in that boat, except the only thing is I don't have I'm not looking to swap Jack Steele. Obviously, I didn't start with Jack Steele. So, and no, that's not been me being smug like Calvin was saying the other night. I generally don't like seeing good players go down injured. I don't like seeing any players go down and get injured, really. So, unless I don't like them. But there's not very many of those players I don't like. But yeah, if you want to pay it for Mills, you can. He's looking every bit of it. I don't see him how he averages under 115 from here on in. I did predict at the start of the year, I thought he'd be the guy that could average 115, 120, the breakout star this year, and he's looking like that at the moment. So, sort of that one was one of the calls that I got right. So, it would have been good if I actually started with him or got him in earlier, but that's all right. I didn't anyway. But yeah, so great VC option. To have a guy as a VC like that on a Friday night, you got a free hit, it's pretty good. And you probably might not even have to do your trade. So, if you've got like a Whitfield, just got a hair on the camera. If you've got a Whitfield or something like that, and you're looking at trading it, but then Mills goes pumped out of 150 tonight, and you need a loophole option, Whitfield's the guy to be your loophole. So then maybe you hold him for a week. So that's definitely something to be looking at with tonight. So other players to watching this game. So Sam Walsh playing a lot more of this wing role, not getting as much CBA time. I've said a couple of times in the last few weeks that I just don't see how he's the top 8 mid. I don't really think he'll average anything more than 105, just based on the fact that I think this wing role, he's not going to get those tackles. He's not going to get those high possessions. He'll get games where he gets 40 and stuff, but he's not going to have those 140 plus scores where he has 40 touches, 6 or 7 tackles, and a few marks. He might have 40 touches, but he might only have like 4 or 5 marks and maybe a couple of tackles. So the ceiling's not quite there for him. If he was playing a lot more inside mid, then it'd obviously be a bit different. But he's still a very, very good player nonetheless. Isaac Heaney, as I said, I'm annoyed with him since I've had him. 67, 75 in the 2 games I've had him. I think before I got him, he only had 1 score under 95. I bring him in, he's got 2 scores under that. So he's only had 2 combined CBAs in the last 2 weeks. He's named on a wing in the final team sheet. So let's just see what role he plays tonight. I'm hoping that he plays some more midfield because he really just should be. So I don't know why he's not playing. He's a natural midfielder, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens. If he doesn't start playing a lot more midfield, then maybe he's a guy at round 13. I might have to flick on to a better forward. Maybe a Bont or a Bailey Smith get forward status. So we'll have to see with that. Corey Durden, Paddy McCartan, Jack Carroll, all 3 of those. I think many people are going to have those guys on their bench. So perfect opportunity to have them as your emergency loophole. If one of them scores an 80, like a 70, 80, 90 score, or even more maybe, then you can maybe potentially do that. Might change your trade. You might hold Whitfield. You might hold Jack Steele for a week if you want to do something else in our line. I don't know. You're probably not holding Jack Steele because he's so much money. You just want to go up to a big mid for anyway. But you know what I mean? Like if you've got Paddy McCartan in defence, he gets an 85 tonight and you want to take that, you can hold Whitfield, for example, and then you can trade out Dacos, or you can trade out Butters, or you can trade out Kinnear or someone like that. So that's just something to think about with those guys there, but it's a perfect opportunity with all 3 playing tonight. Jake Lloyd, underpriced option defence, back-to-back hundreds. I'm personally not too much of a fan. I just haven't seen enough from him yet, but if you're hot on him, then he's not too bad an option to bring in. He's 741, not too expensive. I would rather pay the, 49K? Is it 49? No, 39K it is to get to Zorko. That's what I'd personally preferably do. Or if you haven't got George Hill, I get him as well. And George Hill, obviously, speaking of him, another guy to watch tonight against his former team, revenge game, could be big tonight. He hasn't got anything less than 28 touches this season, so he's just looked very, very good this year. Luke Parker, if you've got him as well, should be solid as well tonight. This should be a pretty high-scoring fantasy game under the roof at Marvel. Sam Doherty, similar to all his guns, should be good again. And Jack Carroll, as I mentioned before, just watching see what he does tonight. So Geelong and Port Adelaide at GMHBA Stadium is the first game on the Saturday. So Moonboy Smash Shot Light Legends. Yep, if you're watching live, make sure you do leave a like on the video. It does help the channel out. So thank you very much, Moonboy, for that. And Moonboy Elephant in the Room. All the top averaging mids have had an easy run against Hawks, West Coast, Roos, Essendon, Mills included. Should we be looking ahead at easy runs instead? I reckon I'll go a bit more into depth with that later on when I answer the questions. But I'll go through that because there's certainly a couple of players that got easy runs coming up that I've got my eye on closely. And there's guys who've got tougher runs where I'm sort of fading them in terms of not looking at them too much as an option. But yeah, I'll definitely go into that, Moon Boy, as well. And then thank you for all the other questions coming in as well. Make sure you get your questions in. I'll be answering them once I get through all these games. So Zach Butters scored an 84 last week against North Melbourne. He's still frustrating to watch. He's around the ball enough that you feel like he could get a 120, but we just haven't seen him score over 100 for a while. He got 100 against Carlton, but we haven't seen him play really well. So Geelong and Geelong is a very, very tough assignment this weekend. Hopefully we can get a good game from him this week. I guess we'll just have to see how he goes. But a lot of people, we're going to probably have to hold him now with Whitfield and Jack Steele being out. And you're probably going to want to maybe move on your Nick Martins and your Dacos and stuff like that instead. So, yeah, I guess you just had to see what happens with Zach Butters this week. But if worst comes to worst, he's got Essendon next week. Then he's got his bye. We can move him on in his bye if he's not doing what we want. Excuse me. Mitch Duncan. So, 86 last week. He had 8 marks, which is great, and the 21 touches. But he didn't have a touch from midway through the first quarter to midway through the second quarter. So, I don't like when players do that, when they can go missing. I remember Dan Houston did it a lot last year for him when I had him. There's been Zach Butters has done that this year in the past. I just don't like these players that go missing for portions of the game. I like my players to consistently be involved in the game. So I think Duncan is still not a bad option. He's 732k. He's a lot cheaper. I was going to start with him at the start of the year if it wasn't for his calf injury because I thought he'd be the number one forward potentially. But he's just, I don't know. He's 124 and 86 in the last 2 weeks. He's got Port this week. Could be good. And I think he'll still be a solid option. I still think he'll average minimum 85, and I'm being conservative. I think he'll average 90, 95, but I think we'll just have to, I guess, he could be a guy that you wait until he's bye and then see how he goes, then bring him off after his bye. But yeah, just a guy to sort of consider and what you're going to do with him. And then Ollie Wines as well. So this is the exact definition of an underpriced premium. So he's currently 802k. Obviously down. He's down how much on the season? I think he's down like 130 something K on the season. So let me have a look. I'll get Wines' stats up here. So Ollie Wines is down 136k on the season. So he went 102, 126, 111 to start the season off, which is great. But then he got a 36 against Melbourne. Obviously had that heart issue, injury-affected game. He went off early, so we didn't really see much of him that night. He still got 36 and 24% game time. So it's not actually the worst score in limited game time, especially when he had that issue. But then 118 against West Coast, his first game back, and that was in limited game time. And I was against West Coast, but it was only 74% game time, and he's normally about an 80% game time guy. Then he went 91 against St Kilda at Kazali Stadium. So that obviously was a slippery game. Only 2 players got over 100, and that was Jack Steele and Seb Ross. So he was one of the top sort of 5 or 6 scorers in that game. He only had the 1 mark. So again, if that was a better game, he would have had a few more marks. That would have been 100 there. And he gave away the 1 free kick there. Bulldogs only got a 79. Bulldogs, we know, are a very, very hard team to score against. So that are sort of, I don't even know, sort of don't really count that too much in a way because Bulldogs are just that hard. Like Mills has struggled against the Bulldogs. Everybody struggled against the Bulldogs except Rory Led. And then North Melbourne got a 128 last week, had the 32 touches, 5 marks, 4 tackles, and kicked 2 goals, 3. So the good thing about him is he's just that guy that can fill up the stat sheet. He marks the ball, he tackles, he kicks goals. Very, very similar to a Petrarca type player that can go forward and kick goals. He only spent 56% of the CBAs last week, but I think that was just a little bit down to the fact it was North Melbourne. I think he's their main midfielder. He's their big ball in there. In there. So I think that he'll spend at least 70% of the CBAs from in the future. I think it was just because of North Melbourne they wanted to give run to some other players. So I think he'll be fine. A very, very good option. He's in my trade plans this week, and I'll obviously go into them once I got through these games. I've got 2 options what I'm looking at doing. Just depends really what happens tonight in a way. So, and then he's run as well. So he's got Geelong and Geelong. He got 100 against them, 116 against them last year, Adelaide Oval. So he did play well against them last year. He's got Essendon. Then he's bye. He's got Richmond, Sydney, Gold Coast, Fremantle, Giants, Melbourne, Geelong, Collingwood, Richmond, Essendon, and Adelaide for his run. So it's a bit of a mixed run. Some good matches there. A couple of tougher games. But Ollie Wines is a guy that should average 110 from here. So I think he's a very good option to bring in. So I'll be looking at him this week. And then other players to watch. So Tom Stewart, again, he's just getting it done every week. He's probably too expensive to really bring in now. I think he's like 848, so he's really expensive. And that was obviously because of 162. But if you've got him, should be good again. Sam de Koning, so not a bad option to have. If you haven't got McCartan, it could be a decent emergency loophole if you want to do something like that. I wouldn't be playing him on field though, but he'll make a little bit more cash. The good thing is he was very slow burnt at the start. Obviously had that concussed game. Then he only came back and got like a 20. But since then, he's been able to slowly go up in money. He's now up to 332. He's got a break even of, I think it's still about 20 points. I think it's about 19 or 20 still. So his break even still is 19. So he's still got some more money to make. Hopefully, he can get up to near 400, and that'll be good for us. So I don't think he'll get to 400. He might get to 370. But if he gets a 70 or an 80 in there, then that obviously does help a lot. Connor Rosie. So again, as I said, with Butters, tough matchup. I prefer Rosie over Butters. I just think Rosie's a bit safer at the moment. So I think he'll be better. But again, Geelong's tough assignment. Dan Houston. We have seen some defenders score quite well down at GMHBA Stadium because obviously it's such a small ground and it's in tight. We have seen guys like that score well in the past. So hopefully Houston for you guys, if you've got him, can score well. Sam Hayes, again, he's at 370 or something like that now, 380. So he's making good money. Hopefully he can get a solid score this week and continue to make money. So 372, break even to 26. If he can get up to 500K, he's going to be really, really important to be able to downgrade after the buys because you're probably going to need him for your round 13 and 14 during the buys. So once the buys are finished, you can go him down to a non-playing ruck because you're not going to really need a guy on the bench. You can bring a guy if they're playing, if or whatever, but make a lot of money. You'll be able to do some nice upgrades from that. So that'll be good for when we can do that. Travis Boak only got 38 last week. That was disgusting. So hopefully I'm sure that he'll rebound this week and he'll already be back over 100. But yeah, that was sort of a bit weird. And then Patrick Dangerfield. So I'm keeping my eye on him because he's now down at 665K, which is ridiculously cheap, right? So he hasn't done anything this year. Like he hasn't even looked like scoring well. So he's down at 655. He's gone down 73K in the year. So he's only got the 200s, and that was in round 1 and round 3. So in his last 4, he's gone 66, 70, missed 2 games, and he went 90 and 61. So I'm just keeping an eye on him just as a guy that if you can't get to anyone else, if he starts showing some good scoring, then maybe he's a guy that's really cheap that you can potentially look at. We know that he's been an uber premium in the past, but is he going to be that anymore? Just a guy to keep an eye on. I'm definitely not saying trade him in or anything, but he's really cheap. Just keep an eye on him. I did sort of flag Taran Thomas before everyone else was flagging him. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm just saying that I did say that Taran Thomas hasn't worked. And I don't think he will work. So that obviously didn't matter anyway if I suggest that. But Dangerfield, just keep an eye on him. He's really cheap. So Western Bulldogs and Gold Coast, that's the other game on the Saturday. So got plenty of players playing this game. So Jack Macrae, nice bounce back for him last week with 123 points against Collingwood. Again, he loves playing Collingwood as well, but it was good to see him get over 120 again. We haven't seen those 140-plus scores from him so far this season. That's only a matter of time before they start coming. He played a lot more CBAs last week as well. Gold Coast, he loves playing Gold Coast. He's got a good record against them as well. I remember back in the day, got like a 170 against them. I think that was up at because I think that was up in Cairns, I think, from memory. I think it was up in Cairns when he got that score. But he averaged 117.6 against them in his 11 games. So he's got a very good record. Averaged 112.6 at Mars Stadium. So I know he's had a couple of weird scores the last couple of games, but he normally plays quite well against there. So if you looking at a VC option again, very early in the round, could be a nice guy to have a look at and see what he does. I don't know, unless McCartan or Carroll score like an 80 and I hold Whitfield, I don't think I can then do a VC because I don't think I've got anyone actually not playing. I think all my guys are playing unless Brady Hoff or Hugh Dixon don't get names. So, which I actually go through that after I get through this game. So, hang on. So, yeah, nice VC option. As I said, could be massive. Toot Miller. So he's sort of looking back to his self again. 128 last week. So 3 of his last 4 scores have been great. He's gone 111, 140, 92, and then the 128. So he's looked good in the last 4 weeks. Only cost you 8K to go from Jack Steele to him. So you go from $1 million man to the other $1 million man. Tough matchup against the Bulldogs this week at Mars Stadium. But after that, he's actually got quite a nice run up until his bye. So he has got Hawthorn and North Melbourne And then he's got his bye. Then he's got the Crows after his bye. So he's got a good run. Bulldogs obviously tough, but it's Toot Miller. He can score against anyone. So let's just see how he goes this week. And then Marcus Bontempelli. So him and Bailey Smith, I'll sort of talk about the same. So they're currently both on 37% for forward. If you're wondering where I got that from Tim Mitchell, who writes. He's more a super coach guy. He writes for like Herald Sun and stuff like that. All the fantasy stuff over there. But he writes all the statistics down. So Bailey Smith and Bont are currently at 37%. The threshold is 35%. So if they continue their roles like they have been doing, then they'll be getting forward status, which will be great because they'll be top 6 forwards without a doubt. So we're going to have a lot of Bulldogs players in our forward lines. But yeah, Bont is underpriced. He's only 801k. He's the same. He's 1k cheaper than Ollie Wines. So they're probably the two guys I'm looking at as the cheap guys. It's tempting to go Bont because he's going to get that. He looking like he'd get that forward status. The only thing is, if you go early, he doesn't get the forward status. Then sort of is he going to be a guy you're going to keep in your team long term? Ollie Wines could be a guy I keep in my team for the whole year because he averaged 110. If Bont's playing a bit more forward, is he going to average 110? I'm not sure, but Bont can average 110. We know this, but we know that he doesn't score as well with Dunkley in the team. He had his first score over 110 this year with the 119 last week. So, yeah, I'm certainly looking at Bont as an option. Him and Wines, those two guys there. But yeah, and then Bailey Smith as well. If you haven't got him, he's expensive. But if he gets forward stays, averaging 116 for the year or whatever, he's looking great. Even playing forward, he had 41 disposals last week. He only attended 44% of the CBAs. He's a guy that doesn't need the CBAs to get his score. The only thing we haven't seen from him lately is for Bailey Smith in the first 5 weeks. So he had in round 1 he had 7 marks, 11 tackles. Round 2 he had round 3 5 marks, 2 tackles. Round 4 7 marks, 4 tackles, and round 5 7 marks, 4 tackles. So he's consistently getting over 5 marks and getting quite a number of tackles, right? But since then, he's only had 1 mark, 4 marks, 1 mark, 3 marks in his 4 games since, and he's had 3 tackles, 4 tackles, 1 tackle. So we haven't seen those numbers where he can get those 140s, where he gets those marks and tackles. So I'm hoping that comes back in the next few weeks. He has copped, I think, a little bit more attention in the last couple of games as well. Hopefully, yeah, as I said, because when you get those tackles and marks, that's where you lift your score from a 110 to a 140, 150, especially if you're getting 40 touches like Bailey Smith's done a couple of times this year. So, yeah, hopefully he can continue with that. So, Bailey Dahl, he's been really good this year. So, he's been really consistent, a lot better than a Caleb Daniels. So, Bailey Dahl this year is averaging 94.7. So, his scores have been 92, 75, 81, 104, 74, 126, 102, 92, and 106. So, he's been really good, especially the last 4 weeks. Lowest score of 92 with 300s there. He is expensive now at 785. Very, very pot option. He's owned by 9.2%. But again, take into the fact that a lot of people do set and autofill from the very first game, Melbourne Bulldogs. So a lot of Melbourne and Bulldogs players this year's ownership are spiked a lot higher. So Bailey Dahl's not owned by 9%. Of the people inside the top 20, 30, 40,000, he's probably only owned by maybe 2 or 3%, maybe not even that. So, yeah, he's definitely a decent pot option to look at in your back line. I'll talk about Bailey Smith. Tom Liberatore, again, another forward option. He got a 126 or 125 against Collingwood last week. He's been quite consistent this year. He hasn't had the ceiling games in. He hasn't had enough 100 games. He's had a couple of 120s, right? But he's gone 64, 104, 81, 87, 85, 127, 83, 72, 125. So you probably want to see those 80s become 90s before really looking at him as an option. But a guy to look at and see what he does. Buku Karmas and Luke Cleary, two cheat guys. I would prefer Buku Karmas because of the job security, because I think he'll be there through the buys. Luke Cleary might not be there. So I know Luke Cleary is clearly got the better scoring potential and will probably make money quicker. But I would rather Buku Karmas and have that guy there, because in the buys, if you've got 19 or 20 players, even if Buku Karmas only gets a 40, it'll drop off anyway because you're going to have your lower score drop off. But if he gets a 70 or an 80, then all of a sudden he counts and you can get rid of another score. So I'd rather him over Luke Cleary, but if you want to go Luke Cleary, then go ahead. I think they're still both going to make a little bit of money. Hopefully, if you go Luke Cleary, hopefully he can stay in the team for you as well. Roy Thompson, a bit similar to Buku Karmas, not a terrible option because he will be there. I'd rather Buku Karmas. I think Buku Karmas can score 50 plus, whereas I don't think Roy Thompson will score 50 plus. But just a guy to watch and see what happens. Josh Dunkley scored a 138 against the Crows last time he was at Mars Stadium, so he should be good. Adam Treloar, 136 last week. He should be good again. Robbie McComb, hopefully he can do a lot better than his 38 last week. Otherwise, he could find his job security in a bit of jeopardy. And we need him to continue to make money. So his break even is now up to, I think, is it 20-something now? 23. So if he gets another 40, then he's not going up much and he's going to be a bit of an issue. So I guess we'd have to see what happens. And Joel Jeffrey's another really cheap guy that if he holds his spot in the team, then you can always just look at that. So let's just have a quick look at these final teams for on the Sunday games, and I'll get stuck into the rest of the game. So because I only just got announced. So GWS and West Coast. So into the squad for Giants is Zach Sproul, Jared Brander, James Peatling, Tanner Brun, Jacob Weir, and Jesse Hogan. And then out of the team, you've got Finn Callahan's injured, Cooper Hamilton dropped, Connor Stone injured, Lachie Keefe dropped, Lachie Whitfield injured, Matt DeBoer dropped, and Nick Haynes is out with illness. So Jacob Weir is a new player for us that's making his debut. So he is a... What is he? So he's a 190k defender. So he's really interesting. The only thing with him is he's got the round 12 bye, which sucks. So the good thing is, if he keeps his spot in the team, we've got 2 games to look at him. If he gets a couple of 60s, he'll be about 250, but you're happy to pay that because he'll hopefully play for the bye. So good guy to look at. He's not a bad guy that's come into the team. And then who missed it? So Matt Flynn's not in, so that's obviously good for Bruce. Obviously, he'll be the solo ruck there. And Josh Fahey didn't obviously get in as well. But wait, so Tanner Brun got... Oh no, yeah, Tanner Brun got named. Yeah, so that's obviously a bit of a spanner for those mid guys. I'm hoping that Kinnear named on the ball. I know it doesn't mean much, but hopefully the main 4 midfielders this week's Tom Green, Tim Taranto, Stephen Kinnear, and Josh Kelly. Hopefully they're the 4, and hopefully you might see 5 CBS from Ward. Hopefully Ward moves to a wing or half back like they said he was going to do in the preseason, but we don't know what's going on with that. And then I don't really want to see Brun in over those other guys. And then for West Coast, Luke Shuey and Andrew Gaff come into the side. Liam Ryan is out through suspension. Sam Tresky-Seaton's out with health and safety protocols, and Luke Foley is out with the concussion. So that means that Bray Hoff didn't get in. If you've got him, if you're hoping for him to come in, Hugh Dixon held his spot. So if you've got him, he's obviously going to be playing again. Nash held his spot as well. Greg Clark's in the team still. He was on the field anyway. But Hoff, there's a chance he could be the sub, which will suck, especially for me because I've got him and he's got to break into 16, so he might not make any more money. And then for Hawthorn Brisbane, so we've got Tom Mitchell, Chancroft Jath, and Daniel Howe come into the side. Finn McGuinness, James Wolf have both been dropped. Connor McDonald out as a Medi sub, and Jack Gunson's injured. And then for Brisbane, Tom Fullerton's into the team. And then Marcus Adams is out through health and safety protocols. And Tom Berry is out as the Medi sub. So I'm assuming Fullerton will come in. Jack Payne will go back. That's probably how they're going to be doing things there. So Nash is there. So that's just a bit of a watch for Lachie Neale with Nash playing. So just watch for that as well. And then for Fremantle and Collingwood, so Michael Walters, Matt Taberner, and Sam Switkowski come in. And then Brandon Walker, Josh Tracy, Neil Erasmus, and Darcy Tucker have been dropped. And then for Collingwood, Jack Ginnivan, Jamie Elliott, Mason Cox, Scott Pendlebury, and Nathan Murphy are into the side. So then Caleb Poulter and Callum Brown have both been dropped. Jack Madgen's out injured. Aidan Begg's been dropped. Finlay McRae's out as a Medi sub, and Ollie Henry is dropped as well. So good news is that Jack Crisp is still named. Apparently he was at training today, so that's obviously good news that hopefully he'll play. Is my computer stuffing up? Nope. I thought it was. It's just going a bit... Hopefully the stream's not just going a bit weird on my screen. I don't know if the stream's going to be weird, but anyway, so Jack Crisp is in the team, which is good. So that's good news, and hopefully he will be all good to play. So that's the teams there. So let's get back into the game. So North Melbourne and Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. So this is the twilight game. So Christian Petrarca, so went big last week, 139. Looked back to his best from the early season form that he had. It was the Eagles, but the thing is, when you play an easy team like the Eagles or Hawthorn or whatever, the easy for fantasy players to score, you need them to cash in. And Christian Petrarca cashed in big time. Could have been a lot bigger. He kicked 2 goals, 4. that could have been a 150 plus. So that was his first 120 plus score since round 2. He's cheaper than the other big midfielders, 879k. Another juicy match against North Melbourne. Great replacement for Jack Steele. 13k you actually make from that trade. If I had the option, I think he would be my number one target because you can put him captain straight up against North Melbourne, and he's underpriced with his other guys. He's nearly 100k cheaper than Callum Mills. So he's about 90k. He's about 80k cheaper than Callum Mills. So it's a decent amount of money that you're saving. So, and I don't know if they're going to be that dissimilar because Petrarca's got the ceiling as well. So, great option to bring in. Jason Horne-Francis, so if you've got him still, he's obviously back in after missing a week with hamstring tightness. If you need to hold him, he's not the worst guy to hold too. His round 14 buy. You're going to get 60s from him. You might get the odd 70 or 80, but he'll get you 60s. If you can still trade him out, then you do. But if you need to hold him because you've got Steele and Whitfield, I think Horne-Francis isn't the worst rookie to play on field because he's going to give you 60. He's going to play midfield. So if you've got him, you can still play him on field, and that's completely fine. But if you can move him on, then he's done his job. So that is something you can do. And then Clayton Oliver, slightly disappointing last week with the 91, when especially all those other guys went 100 plus. He should have cashed in. He didn't. But before that, had 4 scores in a row over 110. And he only had the one score before, the one score in support of 68. And then every game before it was 100. And then over 110 except for round 1. So he's only had the 3 scores this year under 110. So he's been really good this year. Hopefully against North Melbourne, he'll be able to cash in this week. So hopefully for you guys, he'll be able to do that. And Taran Thomas, I'm just still sort of keeping my eye on him just to see what he does. But he's probably not, you're not looking at him, I don't think, anymore. And then Max Gawn as well. Hopefully he'll be a bit better this week than the 87 because I had him captain and that wasn't good watching. So hopefully he'll be better this week. Adelaide and St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. So the first Saturday night game. So Roy Laird, for me, he's the most consistent player in the AFL in terms of fantasy scoring. Simple as that. And you could arguably say in the AFL as well because he's on a 34-game streak. I mentioned this a few times. 34-game streak of at least 25 disposals. He gets it done. He tackles. I don't see how he doesn't average 110 plus the rest of the year. I really don't. And he could average 115. If he shows more ceiling games, it could even push up higher than that. It won't push up over 120. I'm not saying that, but he's looked really good. 124 last week against Brisbane. 122 the week before when he was sick against Carlton. 118, I think, before that against Giants when he got tagged. Then the 110 against the Bulldogs when he at Mars Stadium. So he's been really good. If you're looking at him for a Jack Steele replacement, he's very, very good. You know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get pretty much everything over 100. He's not going to get you anything less than 90. I'd be very surprised if he did. He might give you one game where he's, I guess, like an 80 or a 70, but it doesn't happen very often. I think he's got in the last year and a half, he's only had one score under 90, and that was a 75 against Richmond last year in a bit of a weird game. So he's really good. St Kilda and Geelong in his next 2, Geelong in Geelong as well. A couple of tough games, but I really don't think that's going to bother Lairdy too much. But he's a guy that after his bye, he's got an insanely easy run for the rest of the year. So him and Ben Keys are 2 guys that you can definitely look at bringing in your team after their bye. Jake Saligo as well. He's my pick of the rookie downgrades this week. So 59 last week, got involved a fair bit, played 81% game time, which is a positive because a lot of rookies do come and only play 65 to 75% game time. Played on a wing, looked good. Scholl's been dropped and he's kept his spot. I think Saligo will hold his spot now for the foreseeable future. If the only problem is people looking for a defender rookie this week because of Clear and Karmas and now Jacob Weir as well, you'd obviously rather Karmas, Cleary than Weir if you're going in the 3. But Saligo, if you're looking for a mid rookie, I think he's definitely the pick. If you're looking at just any rookie who's got is the best, I think Jake Saligo is the guy. I think he can score over 50 most weeks. And his job security is pretty good. He's got the round 13 buy. I did make the mistake in the written article that said round 14 buy, so I have to change that. But round 13 buy, not a bad buy for if you're looking at that. I'm a bit heavy on the round 13 buy, guys, so I might not be able to bring him in until like next weekend, or I might not even be able to bring him in. So, but yeah, definitely a downgrade option to look at. And then Jack Sinclair with Jack Steele out for a while. I see Jack Sinclair playing a fair bit more midfield time. They have said that they'll play guys like Marcus Windhager in there a little bit more as well. I do think Jack Sinclair will get some CBAs now that Steele's out. We'll just have to see. But if you've got him, great. If you don't have him, with that thing about maybe he might not, it would be the young guys getting the opportunity. Maybe you don't jump on him this week and you wait to see what he does. But he's been really good anyway, so you could just jump on him because he's been good even down back. So he hasn't scored under 80. I think he's only got those 2 scores of 80s, and then the rest of them been 90 plus. He's been really good. So, good, solid pod replacement for Whitfield owners. Jay Gresham as well is another guy keep an eye on because of the Jack Steele being out. But then again, he was playing plenty of midfield anyway, so I wouldn't be looking at picking him up, but he is a bit cheap. So if you want to jump on him, then I guess you can. Jordan Dawson gets it done every week. Another 100 on the weekend. Again, I'm a bit frustrated as a Crows fan myself and a Jordan Dawson owner that they keep sort of chucking him forward, then defence, then on a wing, then defence, then forward. Like, just keep him wingman / behind the ball, and then that's it. Leave it at that. Don't stuff around with him too much because we know he's a lot better behind the ball when he gets bulk points. So I remember on the weekend he was on 3 points midway through the first quarter, and then he ended up being top scorer at quarter time with 34 points. So he's got a ceiling as well. We've seen that. We haven't seen a lot of those ceiling games this year. We've only seen the one score over 115, but hopefully more of those will come. He's been really good this year. So again, another solid option if you're looking for a guy to replace Whitfield. Ben Keys, I did mention before with Lloyd, they've got a great run after their bye. So could the Adelaide run after their next 2 games. So I'll just get to, hang on, so here. Their run after. So they've got St Kilda this week, then Geelong next week, but then they've got West Coast before their bye. That sucks. It's before their bye. It would have been perfect if it was after. But then after their bye, Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Melbourne, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Sydney, Carlton, West Coast, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. Amazing run, playing North Melbourne twice, playing West Coast twice from here, playing Gold Coast, Collingwood, and Hawthorn all once each. That is such a nice run there. Sydney's is a bit of the tricky game. Carlton, not so much. Obviously, Dawson and Lloyd both went over 120 in that game. And I think that, what did Keys end up getting that game? I think he got like a 90, 98. So, but his team's been a bit lowered with Lloyd being back in the team. I think Keys will be okay, but he's probably not going to be that 120 that we were seeing in the first few weeks. But yeah, those Crows boys, good options to bring in after their bye. Just you're probably only looking really at Dawson, Keys, and Laird are probably the 3 that I'm going to think off the top of my head. I don't really think there's any other guys that you'd be really looking at bringing in. I don't think so. Looking here, you wouldn't bring in, obviously, if Matt Crouch came in and got a couple of 120s or something, then he's a cheap guy you could potentially look at to make some money. But there's probably a point of the year where you're probably not looking for guys like that, and that's probably real. And that's really if it's literally Laird, Keys, and Dawson, the 3 that you'd be looking at. So Sam Berry, a cheap guy that people have been looking at as well. He's got he's got a couple of good back-to-back scores. What's he done? So he got 89 last week. Week before 103. Week before that, he got an 81. He is relying a fair bit on tackles. He's gone 8, 9, and 13 his last 3. So he only had 14 touches last week and only 1 mark. So if he didn't have those tackles, it would have been wouldn't have been such a high score. I'm not personally a fan of bringing him in just because of the fact that we've seen him get 40s and 50s playing midfield. So he's not got that safe floor per se, because there is games where he can go missing. So I wouldn't be bringing him in. There's like Darcy Cameron and Connor Rosie were different guys that you could bring because they had the role, whereas I just don't see him being a consistent scorer. But he's got a low break even, can make some money. So yeah, I guess if you're in a real bad pickle, then maybe it could be something you look at. Jack Steele, he's just another guy to sort of keep an eye on. A little bit same with Berry. I'd probably rather Hately over Berry if you're looking at an option. I think Hately's a little bit more well-rounded in terms of he marks the ball a little bit more as well. So he got a 98 last week, played his best game by far for the Crows. Didn't have any good games before that, but just watch and see what he does, because if he plays plenty more midfield like he did last week, 27 disposals last week, if he can continue that sort of role, he's only 488k. If we see another game or 2 from him that's good, if he gets like a 120 this week, then he could potentially be someone that is interesting. So yeah. And then Marcus Winhager as well, if you've got him, he should get a bit more midfield time with Jack Steele being out. So he's a guy to look at. Big Ubche says, who wins tonight, boys? Or Boish? Carlton or Sydney? That's a very tough game, actually. Marvel Stadium puts in Carlton's favour. I think I'm going Sydney just because Harry Mackay's not playing. If Harry Mackay was playing, I'd probably lean towards Carlton. But I just think that Sydney are on a good roll at the moment. Plus, as well, it's a double point randomised tipping comp. So I think that Sydney will be the underdog. I think Sydney will probably be. I think a lot of people will go Carlton because it is at Marvel. But at the moment, it's $2. Carlton $1.80. So Sydney are the favourites. Lewis Young comes back in for Carlton, which does help. But yeah, I'm personally going Sydney just in that one. Be very, very close though. So be a very good game tonight. Looking forward to that game actually tonight. So I do look forward to any game really. So I can't really start. I'm just looking forward to it tonight because I do look forward to every game. Richmond and Essendon on the other game on Saturday night. So Dusty Martin. So just a guy to keep an eye on to see what he does over the next 2 weeks. So he's currently 671k. Got 93 last week. I don't think it'll be a top 6 to 8 fall, but he's got the round 12 bye. Could be a decent option to bring in round 13 off his bye. That you can always upgrade him post bye because hopefully our teams will be almost done by then. So I think I've only got most people have only really got probably Greg Clark, Nick Dacos, Nick Martin, and you might have one or two others on your field potentially. You might have a Hobbs, you might have a Horn Francis on your field. You might have guys like that. So you're not going to have too many rookies. So we're going to be able to do these sort of moves after the buys. So you can bring Dusty in around 16. He hasn't done what you want, but he's still going to be near 700k. And then you can trade him to another forward like a Bont if he gets it, or someone like that, or if Heaney starts playing better, or if you don't have Dunkley or Taranto who's going down in price. So that's just something to look at. Zach Merritt, so again, another guy to look off his round 13 buy. So only a 51 last week, dropped 57k, break even to 158. So he's potentially going to be under 800k in a couple of weeks' time. Off his buy, we know he's averaged 115 plus on multiple occasions. He'd be a decent option under 800k to bring in off his buy. Again, similar to Dusty, if he's not doing what you want, once you bring him in after his buy, you can move him on because he's going to be still 800 oddish k. So you can move him on to a better player after buys. So it's just that because I don't know if we're going to have enough money to be able to get the Mills, Brayshaws, all these guys off their buy. I think Laird for me is the one priority that I'm making myself. I'm getting 100% in round 14, potentially in round 12 to get that West Coast matchup, but more than likely it will be in round 14, just with that amazing run. Ben Key's another guy I'll be looking at just because of Adelaide's run for the rest of the year. I probably will only just go Laird, but those two. But Laird's definitely the guy 100% I'm bringing in no matter what. Like, I'll make it happen. But yeah, Zach Merritt's a guy that will be cheap that you can look at bringing in. And then Nick Martin as well. Lowest score of the year, but it was a 65. So he had a good second half. I think he only got 23 points or 27 points in the first half last week that he got. And then he ended up getting 40 points in the last quarter. So let me have a look, just a quick look. So Sydney and Essendon. So the first quarter, Nick Martin, what did he get? He got 30 points and he only got a 75. That's really disappointing. I knew that. I just had to say it again. Nick Martin to 14 points the first quarter. Then I think he only got, was it 9 points in the second quarter? No, so he got... Where is he? Hang on. 4 points. What's that? What did I say? Four points there. And what did he get in the first quarter? Was it 4? What did I say? 14? Yeah, 14. So he was only on 18 points at halftime. So yeah, he was really, really quiet. But yeah, he was able to respond and end up getting to a 65. So that was pretty good. So I think you can keep him. Richmond, good matchup, open wide space MCG, which we know Nick Martin loves. So yeah, Nick Martin went 23 points in the third quarter, and then he got 24 points in the last. So he was solid after halftime, definitely. If you haven't got the Whitfield and Jack Steele issues, which a couple of people don't, Jack Steele's not owned by a lot of people. Like, he's owned by a fair portion of people, but he's not owned by everyone. And Whitfield, a few people did jump off. So if you haven't got any issues, Nick Martin's the sort of guy that you can move on now anyway. He's got his buy in a couple of weeks. He's a rookie at the end of the day. He's done his job, but you can hold him this week. He's got a good matchup this week. And then in terms of Essendon's matchup next week, what's Nick Martin got next week? So Essendon next week have got Port Adelaide Oval. So that could be a bit of an interesting game as well. So yeah, we'll just see. But yeah, Nick Martin isn't a must trade. But if someone asked me, who would you trade out of Butters, Kinnear, and Martin, I'd probably lean towards Martin just because the rookie. Butters is still at least having 50% CBAs, and Kinnear, new coach, could be big and got West Coast this week. But yeah, it's just interesting. So Jaden Short playing a lot more midfield time as well. He should be good against Essendon on Saturday night. He is looking every bit the top scoring defender. So I was quite clearly wrong on that this year. I didn't think he was going to be as good as what he has been. I don't think anyone was going to predict he's going to be a 105, 110 guy, but I thought he was going to be a 95 to 90 guy, but he's been really good. So it's good for him. I'll be looking at him off his bye. Darcy Parish, is a medal up for grabs. Could be big, but nah, good match against Richmond. Darcy Parish should be good. Maurice Rioli, only in 18 last week. He's just a small forward. You just can't rely on those guys to make enough money unless you've got nothing, like no rookies are coming through and you need a guy. But he should be okay tonight. He should get a 50 or something tonight. Nick Vostone, obviously with short playing more midfield, he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on down back. And Ben Hobbs as well should be solid against Richmond if he gets enough midfield time. So final 3 games. So GWS and West Coast, let's get through these games and answer all your questions. Got a few here. Thank you for all your questions. I'll answer them when we've done this. If you're watching live as well, make sure you leave in the live chat your questions. I'll get to them once I've gone through these last 3 games. If you've got any questions about the week or anything, or if you've just got any general questions in general, even about myself in a way, you can just ask them. That's fine. And then also, if you are watching live, make sure you do leave a like on the video. Very much appreciated. We've currently got 22 people that are watching that haven't liked it yet. So if you can chuck a like on the video, be very much appreciated as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Thank you for helping me reach 400. We're going for 500 subscribers now. We're on 408. I don't know what we're on now. But yeah, thank you for all the support, guys. Do appreciate it. So Greg Clark came back to earth a little bit last week with a 61. Did play a very good Melbourne team. Did make a lot of money as well. Still got a break even -20. He'll be fine. Giants can be a bit of a tougher matchup, but he'll be good. He'll still make plenty of money and continue being on field for us and probably get 60s. But with Yo coming back soon, and then Gaff and Shuey back in this week, maybe he doesn't see 18 CBAs like he did. Maybe he can get 10, hopefully. But yeah, he'll still be fine. He'll get his 60s on his field at minimum, and he'll still make money as well as score enough on field for us. Stephen Kinnear, so named on ball. So people are saying, I don't take much into that. Don't take much in that. The reason I do read a little bit into the fact he's been named on ball is that in every game this year in the team sheets, when Stephen Cornelio was named on the ball, it was in he's only been named on the. I actually did a bit of research about this last night. So in every game that Kinnear's been named on ball, right? So round 1, he was named on the ball. So he ended up scoring, I think he was okay. I think he got an 87 with 20 disposals and he went to 20 CBAs, right? So he was the most for any Giants midfielder, right? Round 2 was the only other game besides this round he was named on ball. It was against Richmond. So, and we obviously remember that was probably his best game for him, even though he didn't score his best. So he scored 98 with 23 disposals and 2 goals. And he went to, was it 16 CBAs? Yeah, 16. So he was the second most behind Callan Ward, right? Every other game he got named on a forward flank, and we've seen he's only got like 5, 1, 4, 3, 7 CBAs. So he hasn't got very many CBAs. But the fact that he's named on the ball, again, I'm not saying that he's going to be playing full-time mid, but they've named the captain or one of the co-captains on ball, first game up. Spike McVeigh wants to get off to a winning start against West Coast. I think Kinnear will be in the guts. I think Ash will be moved back to back flank. Hopefully Ward gets moved to a wing/half back as well. And then let's see if Tanner Brun gets any midfield time as well. But yeah, so Taranto will probably see an uptick as well. Great match against West Coast. I think Kinnear will be fine. I don't think he'll be a top 6 forward, but I think he can average 90, 95 if he can play enough midfield from here. Obviously, if he doesn't play enough midfield this week or next week, you just move him on his round 12 bye, and then that's pretty much it from that, and we move on. So, and Josh Kelly, so back-to-back 134s. 32 scores of 134 in his last 3 weeks. Great match against West Coast this week. My out of focus with the camera there. If he can get 60% plus of the CBAs, he's going to be a big score. We've seen that in the past. He can average 115 when he gets 65, 70% CBAs. Let's see if that is what happens. I partly expect Giants to go to a Tom Green, Josh Kelly, Tim Taranto as their main 3 midfielders, but we'll just have to see. There's so many unknowns with the Giants, so just could be a good guy to bring in after his round 12 bye. As he is starting to get a little bit expensive now with those 134 scores, so he's now priced at 855. He's got a break from 86. So if he goes big this week, he'll be close to 900. So, yeah, he was down at 798K before he played Adelaide with the 134. So, yeah, just a guy to keep an eye on and see what he does. So he will be a little bit more expensive, but could be really good from here. Isaac Cumming as well. Just a bit of a watch. We don't know what's going to happen when Whitfield comes in, so that could be a bit of a interesting to see if Whitfield goes back and takes some of those points off Cumming. But if it's Cumming there and Whitfield just stays on a wing, Cumming will be good. Harry Perrin's been a bit of a the Trays mentioned him last night on the podcast. He's been a guy that no one's really talked about. He's been really solid without being amazing. So he's pretty much gone over 80 in every game by like one or two. So his scores this year have been, he's 715K, so he's cheap. He's gone 96, 93, 84, 84, 86, 76, 93, 85, 103. So West Coast this week, good matchup. Break in 82. If you can't afford anyone else, I think you can do a lot worse than him because I think he'll consistently get you 80 plus, but not sort of the guy I'd probably jump on unless I had to. Tom Green hasn't scored well for a while. West Coast this week, you've got him. I think you just hold him till he's bye to see what he does and see what happens. Tim Taranto, underpriced option to be looking at in the next few weeks with their buy approaching, but also he's now down at 784K. Sucks again. I brought him at 934K, as many of you know, which is annoying, but what can you do? You make mistakes. Alex Witherdin has been really good this year for West Coast, consistently gets it done every week. He'll continue to do well with West Coast struggling. The ball's always in there, and he has a lot of the kickouts, and he's just a very good player, so he'll be really good. Brayden Preuss, solo ruck again. So, yeah, he'll just be good as he always is when he's a solo ruck, and he's looking like top two ruck at the moment. So, he just continues to get it done. Hugh Dixon is named, which is good. So, if you've got him, he'll probably hopefully get a 60 and make some more money. If not, he's breaking into 46. It might be time for him to go next week. He might have made all his money. And then Brady Hoff's not named. He could be named the sub. So, if you've got him, I wouldn't be using him as an emergency loophole or anything like that. Sorry, it's a VC loophole because he could be named as the emergency. So, but then again, if you've got, for example, McRae, VC gets a 130. Then if you've got anyone playing after, so if you've got a Josh Kelly, a Lachie Neale, a Dane Zorko, a Andrew Brayshaw, then you can always take it on because one of those guys are great options. Last week was a bit different because it was the last game. We only really had Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver. If you went Petrarca, would have worked out for you. But yeah, just keep an eye on that as well. Hawthorn, Brisbane. So Lachie Neale, great captain option this week against the Hawks down at Pig Park. Slight chance he gets tagged by Connor Nash. He's very similar to Mark O'Connor, quite a tall midfielder. And if he does, Lachie Neale could struggle a little bit, but I think Neale will be fine. We've seen him. He's scored over 96 in every game bar one this year, which was when he was injured against North Melbourne and tagged for an 86. He's just solid, safe captain option. Number one guy based on form as well. So he'll be good. Dane Zorko, 132 against Hawthorn last year at Utah Stadium. A great option to bring in if you've got Whitfield and Steele. 790K is cheap. I think he'll be a top six defender from here on in. He looks a lot fitter as well. He's, 4 games in a row now playing over 82%. So he's back playing a full-time role. He's not resting on the bench or anything like that. So got the 112 last week, which is impressive because he's on 38 points at half-time and he ended up having a big second half. So, yeah, last 4 games, 82%, 85%, 82%, 81%. So he's back. He's fit. He looks a lot better just to the eye test as well. So he's a good option. And the round 14 buy also is another plus with him. And James Sisley, sick dog, just gets it done. 109 again last week. 4 out of his last 5 scores have been over 100. Lowest score of 79 this year. He's just so consistent. He's just so good. Round 14. Wait, no, he's got the round 13. Has he got round 13 by round 14 by? Hawthorn. I can't remember what buy he's got. He's got round 14 by, but it didn't really matter too much anyway because most people got him. Besides, unfortunately, Warney's the only guy that doesn't have him. But yeah, he's just really good. Brisbane can be tough to score on their day, but the ball will be in there in the defence a fair bit. He'll take kick-ins. He'll get a lot of marks around there. Pig Park, high-scoring fantasy game, so he'll be good. Daniel Rich as well, a guy that I'm potentially looking at as a guy to bring in, not because I want to bring Daniel Rich in, but because it would facilitate a certain move I want to do, which I'll talk about in a sec. But a guy, Hawthorn this week should be good. Round 14 buy is also another positive. Dylan Moore had a poor game last week. I think he only got a 60, but he has been good this year. So if you've got him, he should be good against Brisbane this week. So I think Dylan Moore, I think it's the first time he went he stopped his streak of going, because he went 100, under 100, 100, under 100 for the first 8 rounds. Then he went his second game under 100. He got 95, then 60. So Yeah, I just don't think he could be a guy that could just dish out a 50 on a certain day because he doesn't have a certain role. But yeah, if you've got him, he should be okay. Tom Mitchell, just to keep an eye on. He's really cheap now. He's under 800k. He's going to continue to get cheaper unless he starts playing that full mid role. Hopefully, he can start playing that mid role and get over 70% of the CBAs. But I just don't think it will happen. And then Kadeem Coleman as well should be solid against Hawthorn this week. And then the final game, Fremantle versus Collingwood at Optus. So this game is I think this is the only game for the round that's got rain. Our Giants West Coast apparently is meant to be an 83% chance of rain. So just keep an eye on that. But then this game here, potential thunderstorms, showers, and they're 24 degrees, but 96% chance of rain. So just be wary of that, of guys that rely on marks. They're probably not going to score very well this week. Andrew Brayshaw, it doesn't matter really what conditions it is for him. He got to a 99 despite me not even noticing him. He'll be a lot better this week against Collingwood. Had the 10 tackles last week, so he does get a lot of tackles when it is those conditions, and those conditions are going to be up this week. So I think he'll be good. Has a good run to his bye. Collingwood, Melbourne, Brisbane, Hawthorn. So Melbourne and Brisbane can be a little bit tough on their day, but I think they do give up points to midfielders as well as on their day. And yeah, he'll be a top 8 mid. Good option to bring in for Steele. Him or Mills, I think the more I've thought about it, the more I've started leaning towards Mills. I did say to Calvin on Sunday night I was still going Brayshaw, but looking at Mills, he scores points in bunches, and the SCG thing's not even. He's averaging over 110 this year at the SCG, so he wasn't doing well at the SCG before his last couple of games, but he's just getting it done. So I think I'd rather Mills over Brayshaw, but Brayshaw's still getting it done, and it will be a top 8 mid, so you can definitely bring him in with confidence. John DeGoey, so with the news of the wet conditions, I'm not as keen on him as an option now, but scored a 77 last week, did have negative 1 point third quarter, looked good in the last quarter. I think he's still going to be a good guy to bring in. He's cheap. I think he can still beat average 90 from here. But with the conditions, I wouldn't bring him in this week. I'd wait till next week. But round 14 buy works because if, again, similar Dusty, if he doesn't work out, you can trade him on his buy or trade him just after the buy. He's not going to give you 60s and 50s because he gave you 50 when he had Gastro all week. Then he gave you 60s first game back because Gastro can sort of linger for a little bit, as in like you'll feel lethargic for another week after. So that's probably what happened there. But cheap option to look at. And then Caleb Sarong, I mentioned him a bit before with Chad Warner. I'd rather Sarong, I think, just over him based on the fact that 112, 126 his last two. He's been good in patches before. But then again, is Warner really going to give you a 60 in the role he's playing at the moment? Probably not. So I don't know, actually. It's a tough one there. I'm probably not going to go either, so I don't have to make the decision. But if someone asked me, I'd almost be... Actually, no, Sarong because the round 14 buy, actually, that's the thing that splits it for me. Because round 13, I couldn't bring in someone on that buy. But if you need someone on round 13 buy, I think Warner's definitely a guy you can look at because I think he'll be safer. I don't think he'll give you a 50 or a 60. I think he'll be 75, 80 plus with the role he's playing. But yeah, either or, if you're looking at a cheaper guy, they're certainly guys you can look at bringing in to your team. And then Taylor Adams, I'm just waiting for him to start going bang and play a lot more game time. So the good thing last week, I'm pretty sure from memory, he actually played a decent amount of game time, which is the first time in a while. So he only got 62, but he played 80% game time. So it was against the Bulldogs. He's worked in his last two games, he's gone 75 and 80%. So he is a guy to just keep an eye on. Bulldogs are a tough team to score on as well, as we do know. The round 14 buy, if he goes 110, 120 this week, then and he plays 80%, I'd be looking at him as an underpriced guy to bring in for a Butters or something like that in my midfield. And then if he doesn't do well, you offload him at his round 14 buy. Because, again, actually, if someone asked me, who would you rather out of Adams, Warner, and Sarong, I'd almost go Adams because he's done it in the past and he looks like he's playing more midfield time. So, and these wet conditions could really suit a guy like Adams. In and under, gets a lot of tackles. So, but I probably wouldn't go on him this week. I'd wait one more week before going on him. Break even at 105. You can wait a week to see what he does. And I'd look at pouncing on him potentially next week. So he's a guy I'm definitely looking at. Scott Penderbury, it's been solid in defence, but without being outstanding. He's only got the 100 this year. He's essentially getting 80s every. It's a bit like Perryman in a way. If you can't get up to anyone else, he's a name that you can put there, but probably not a guy I'd look at. And especially with these conditions, might not suit him. Jack Crisp, will he play off half back with him being sick? I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter because he's in most of the teams anyway. You're not looking at bringing him in this week. So if he plays well, the game streak will still be alive. So hopefully he does, and hopefully he'll be all right. I don't expect him to get a 110, 120. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a 70 or an 80 this week, just with the fact that he has been sick all week. We do know that guys being sick don't normally tend to score well. Sean Darcy, disappointing last week at 67, but Jarrod Witt's a tough ruck to score against. Got Collingwood this week. Good match against Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox. So he should be good. And a very good pot option to Bruce and Gawn. So like obviously a lot of people, I think 100% of the top 100 and like 96% of the top 1,000 have got Bruce. So getting Darcy is a good pod, because if Bruce got and dropped a 60 and then Darcy goes and gets a 110, then that can gain you a lot of points. So that's just something to look at there. Will Brodie should be good again. He was good last week at the 102. Just a guy that would just be happy enough to hold him to his bye now, and potentially could be longer depending on how he goes. But I would imagine probably you move on him on at his bye. Darcy Cameron, actually, I'll talk about Darcy Cameron. Nick Dacos named on the ball. I don't know if he'll play on the ball this week, but with the wet conditions, might not be as good. But we'll have to hold him anyway because we've got Whitfield and Jack Steele to deal with. So, but if you need to move someone on, you can move him on. He's done his job. He's been really good for us this year, and you can leave without any sour taste in your mouth. Certainly with Dacos if you trade him out. But the round 14 bye is a good temptation to keep him. So, and Darcy Cameron. So apparently came out today that Mason Cox will be mainly playing in the ruck, which surprised me a little bit because he's a forward. He's tall, right? But he hasn't looked good in the ruck when I've seen him in the past. And Darcy Cameron's been good in the ruck. He's got around the ground and done really well. I don't think that Mason Cox will play mainly ruck this week. I just don't see it. I really don't, because Darcy Cameron's been the team for the whole season. I think Mason Cox is a better forward, but then again, I don't even think he's in their best 22 because Grundy would be in there. So that's just something to watch with Darcy Cameron. Maybe that he's might not score very well and could be an issue to maybe have to deal with before his bye, which will be very annoying. But then again, as well, it was Craig McRae did say before the bounce last week that Nick Dacos is going to be playing forward, and he ended up playing defense. So I think you got to, with these coaches, you got to take stuff they say with a grain of salt. Like what Heaney going to play midfield, and he has had 2 combined CBAs in the last 2 weeks, and he hasn't played that much midfield. He's only had really 2 games with over 10 CBAs this year. So that midfield role hasn't been materialized. Coaches do say things and then the other thing happens. So yeah, I don't really, until we see Mason Cox playing full-time ruck and taking that time away from Darcy Cameron, I don't think we have to worry too much, but just a flag with Darcy Cameron as well. So, computer is getting a bit low. So, anyway, we'll get through his questions anyway. If you're watching live, get your questions in. I'll answer them. And we'll get to your questions as well. So also leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Adam Parthliwala says trades Whitfield and Caldwell out, Zorko and Newcomb in. Thoughts? I don't mind it because Caldwell's an issue. Zorko is a good in for Whitfield. There's not really anyone cheaper than him because you've probably got Whitfield. So you've probably got Hewitt already. There's no one really cheaper than Zorko that you'd feel confident top 6 forward and so top 6 defender. And Newcomb has got the good bite round 14. What's Newcomb priced at? So Newcomb's current price is $6.98. So I'm assuming that's probably the best you can afford, Adam. If you could afford a Sarong or a Warner or an Adams instead, I'd probably go for one of those 3. But if that's the best you can get to, I think he's not a bad option. That round 14 buy as well is quite good. Warple's out this week as well. I don't really see anyone around that price that you'd really feel confident in jumping on. Like, you'd want to see something more from Dusty, DeGoey. I wouldn't jump on this week, as mentioned before. And then Dangerfield, you wouldn't jump on yet. So, yeah, probably Newcomb's probably the best guy you can get there. James Walker says, thoughts on Dixon and Whitfield to Karmas and Doherty with 34K, Hewitt with 123K, or Sinclair with 133K. So, personally, for me, I would probably go for Hewitt and have the 123K left to upgrade next week. If it was in order, I'd go Hewitt 1, Doc 2, Sinclair 3. But yeah, I'd rather Hewitt. That extra 90 odd K is could be quite important next week for another upgrade for you, James. So I'd be going Hewitt there, and then Cummins as well is my pick of him or Cleary. So I think that's good as well, especially getting rid of Dix as well. He's done his job, so moving him on is a good call. Maylee Beckman says Steele and Whitfield to Dusty and Bolton, or Mills and Dusty or Bolton. Hang on. Steele and Whitfield to are you talking about Dusty and Bolton? And then or Mills and Lloyd, because if that's the case, I'd be going Mills and Lloyd. But I'm assuming that you're asking Dusty or Bolton, and then Mills or Lloyd. So out of the two, I'd be going Dusty over Bolton. I think Dusty's just proven in the past he's a better scorer. Bolton, I've seen before, Bolton can get 30s and 40s. Like, he's been good in his last 3 years, but he got a 37 against Melbourne, a 49 before they against the Crows. So I wouldn't be going Bolton. I'd be definitely going Dusty out of those two. And then Mills or Lloyd, I'd be going Mills. But yeah, so if you're asking Dusty or Bolton or Mills and Lloyd, I'd be going Mills and Lloyd. But if you're asking the two, I'd be going Dusty and Mills. So that's what I'll be doing there. Moon Boy, Petrarca and Cameron versus Sarong and Taranto. So I'd be definitely going Petrarca. Oh, but then again, I'd go Petrarca and Cameron, but with the... Oh, no, I'd be going Petrarca and Cameron, because even if Cameron doesn't do what you want, you can move him next week at worst case. But I think Cameron will still be number one rut. And then Taranto will be top 6 4. We haven't seen enough of it yet. And then Sarong is just a guy that you're probably going to ride till his buys. So, yeah, that's probably what I'd be going Petrarca Cameron there. Simon Stack says, what do we think of Soligo's job security? I think it's pretty good. I think he'll be in the team long term. I don't see how he's not in the team until the bye. He played well last week. I think the Crows need to give him a crack, play the kids. And Soligo looked good last week. So I think his job security is pretty good there. Liam O'Flynn had to move on from Nod, so got Cleary in. For my second trade, I'm not sure. Who do I get rid of out of Whitfield, Butters, or Cogs? If I get rid of Whitfield, I'm looking at Dawson, Zorko, Hewitt, or Sinclair. Thoughts on them? So I would be getting rid of Whitfield over Butters and Cornelio, because obviously Whitfield isn't playing this week. There's a chance he doesn't play next week, which means he'll miss 3 weeks, which would be an automatic trade for me. So I would be going and getting... So Dawson, Zorko, Hewitt, and Sinclair. Thoughts on them? So I love Dawson the most personally, but again, that's probably a bit of Crows bias there with the Crows glass on. But if I was to rank those 4, I'd probably go... You never thought I'd say this at the start of the year. I'd probably go Hewitt 1. I think Hewitt's just the safest guy there. He gets you 30 touches a week, essentially. So he's guaranteed to give you 90 plus every week. So I'd go Hewitt 1. I'd probably go... I'm more a fan of the the safer pick, and I'd probably go Dawson first over Zorko, just because of the fact that there's no real injury risk with him. Obviously, any player can get injured at any point, but Zorko's more of an injury risk over Dawson. I'm getting Zorko this week potentially because I've already got Dawson. So I'd go Hewitt 1, Dawson 2, Zorko 3, Sinclair 4 personally. But a lot of people are going to go Zorko 1 or Zorko 2. I just think that Dawson... I've talked about this before, and I'm probably doing this because I love talking about Dawson, but I'll talk about him again, right? So 75 against Fremantle in round 1. He only got 23 points in the first half, got 52 points in the second half, looked a lot better. I think the first half was just adjusting to being at the Crows. And he played forward the whole first half. So, right? Since then, 111 against Collingwood, 100 against Port, 85 against Essendon, including a negative 2-point third quarter. So that could have been a lot bigger. That could have been 110. 99 against Richmond. Again, that he only had like a 3 or 4 point quarter, right? 82 against the Dogs. Down at Mars Stadium, had a quiet quarter in that game as well. And Dogs are tough to score on as well. Then he got 106 against GWS, 128 against Carlton, 101 against Brisbane. So those 3 games under 100 in that middle patch, there was a reason for him scoring under 100 in those games. So I really like Dawson as an option. I think he's safe. I think he'll average really well. I did mention as well, the other thing that people haven't talked about with Zorko versus Dawson is that Dawson's run from round 12 onwards: West Coast, Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Sydney, Carlton, West Coast, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. He's got North Melbourne twice. He's got West Coast twice. He's got Collingwood, Hawthorn, and Gold Coast. Just say Gold Coast. So it's got Gold Coast, Collingwood, and Hawthorn once each after the bye. So he's got such a good run as well over Zorko. So I'd be going Dawson number 2. So I hope put forward my case as to Dawson over Zorko. But If you want Zorko over Dawson, it's literally flip a coin. So, but I'd rather Dawson just. I did. Moonboy, yeah, Elephant in the Room. All top averaging mid-7 easy running against Hawks, West Coast, Roos, Eston, Mills included in this. Should we be looking ahead at easy runs instead? So I did mention that. So obviously, a guy like Mills, it doesn't matter what run he's got. Same with Brayshaw. They're just consistent scorers. Lachie Neale, the same. Laird's the guy, though, that if you're looking at a guy in 2 weeks' time, Laird would be my number one trading target out of any midfielder based on the fact of his run coming up. I mentioned that before with the Crows. That's such an easy run. So Melbourne's run after, just interesting to see what their run is. So they've got North, Fremantle, Sydney, Collingwood, Brisbane, Adelaide, Geelong. So a bit of a mixed bag there, but again, midfielders, it's probably not as much of a thing to look at with that. Hang on, actually, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to get my computer charged. It's got 5% of battery. I want to answer these last couple of questions. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. Don't want the computer going flat midstream, so there we go. Don't want it going flat midstream, as I said. So anyway, what was I saying? Crap, lost my thought. I was saying, the midfielders I don't really take in too much about, if they've got an easy run or not. Easy run's probably something that you can do picking between two players, but for me, I just pick midfielders because that's the midfielder I want in my team. So that's probably what I'd be saying with their Moon Boy with that one. So Shannon Page, I don't know what your question was. I don't know if you're still watching whatever, but if you want to chuck it back in, it just says message retracted. So I'm not actually sure what the question is, but I guess if you want to put it in there. Maylee Bettman says, no one's talking about Josh Kelly, 119 average in his last three, 6.7% ownership, pod mid. Yeah, he is. I did mention him before, so obviously it's a different option to look at. The 89 in between the two 134s is a bit different. And the fact that with the new coach, you just want to see what happens first because, hey, the new coach could play Josh Kelly on a wing. So we just don't know. So I think it's probably one to wait first. But if you've got him, you'd be pretty excited at the fact that he could play bulk midfield and score quite well. So, but yeah, here's a pod mid. I just wouldn't bring him in this week. I'd wait a week first. But West Coast could be a big score coming. Could be a 150 from him. So Simon Stacks picked up Begg for a 13 to get dropped next week. Oh, cool. Yeah. As you said, literally, I repeated what you like. I wasn't saying cool. I was repeating what he said. So, but yeah, that sucks. 13 points and then getting dropped. I don't know what's Begg priced at as well. So Begg's priced at 269K. So he didn't even really make enough to trade him out to a better option. So that sucks. I'm sorry about that, Simon, but I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, unfortunately, this sort of thing does happen. That was a bit of a squeak there. I don't know what that was, but yeah, a bit of fortunately, that's fantasy, and that happens with a lot of picks. But yeah, hopefully he comes back in at some point. Tony Ford, hey mate, thoughts on Whitfield and Steele to Zorko and Angus Brayshaw? So I don't mind Zorko. I'd like Zorko. I don't mind Angus Brayshaw. I'm nervous when Salem comes back that he goes back to that wing role. But Jimmy Jordan's playing well on one wing and Langdon's on the other. Salem's only a week or two away. Brayshaw has got North Melbourne this week. Worst case scenario, you can always get rid of him at his bye. If there's someone else around, he's 779. So yeah, he got 92 last week and he got 123, 110 before that and 90 before. He's got North, Freo, Sydney and Collingwood, the round 14 bye. Yeah, he's not a bad option if you haven't got Hewitt, I'd be getting Hewitt. If you haven't got Dawson, I'd go Dawson. If you haven't got Sisley, I'd get. Oh, excuse me. Well, that was bad. I'm sorry about that. The guys I'd probably go over Brayshaw at the moment would be if you can afford Doherty and Short, I'd go those two. Sisley, Dawson, Zorko, Hewitt. they'd be the guys that I'd pick up probably over Angus Brayshaw. Sorry, they lost track. And then Bay does also not another bad option, but the round 14 bowl, I'd rather Brayshaw over Dahl. But yeah, if you've got Brayshaw's not a bad option, so I don't mind those two trades. I do like Zorko though as well. So, Maley Bettman says Miss Kelly is a captain against West Coast 140-ish. If you've got like a non-playing player that's playing for Hawthorn, Brisbane, Fremantle, or Collingwood, that's not playing, don't do it if he's so like Reef McInnes, don't do it because he's an emergency. But if you had Finlay McRae, for example, you know, or Nod in your team still, and you're not trading him, then you can go a guy like Josh Kelly VC, and if he doesn't work, you can go Neil captain or Brayshaw captain, for example. But that's there wouldn't be many teams that could do that. So I wouldn't put him straight captain, I don't think. I think there are better options this week. I think guys like Petrarca and Oliver against North Melbourne, Neil against Hawthorn, Brayshaw against Collingwood, Jack McRae against Gold Coast. I think there are better options there, but it is something that you could look at. If you want to be different, hey, if you want to back in Josh Kelly against West Coast, that's not a bad pick at all. Like if he gets 150, not many people are going to put in captain, and you could gain a lot of ground on the people above you. So it's definitely something you could definitely consider. Big up Che, who wins tonight. Yeah, I did say it before, so I think that Sydney will just win tonight. Jacob Rivers, good to see you again, Jacob, in the chat. So with Crisp training today, do you tick off going Whitfield to him or still go Dawson? So I would still go Dawson, Jacob, for that, because for one, you save about 80K by about 70K, sorry, 71K by doing that, right? Crisp has been great with 103 average, but Dawson hasn't been that dissimilar to Crisp this year, right? So Crisp's averaging 103.1. He gave you the 50, obviously. So he's averaging about 107, 106 for the year, right? Dawson averaging 98.6. He's getting you essentially 100 every week. He got those couple 80s in a row, but I did sort of say before there's a reason for those, right? So I'd go Dawson, especially as well as I said, the run after the bye is the other thing that would be why I would take him. But if you need a round 14 guy instead, you could go Zorko. But yeah, I don't know if I'd play it for Crisp just with the fact that with him being sick, 880 is a lot of money. Like 880 is in obviously the price range of guys like Petrarca and like Ben Keys is only 5K more, and like McRae's cheaper than that, and Doherty I'd rather over Crisp, and like Jaden Short I'd rather over him. Like you've got a lot of guys I'd probably rather over Crisp at the moment, just with him being sick and he's very expensive. So that's probably what I'd do there, Jacob. But Dawson I'd definitely be going. I love Dawson though, so it could be a bit of bias, but I just think Dawson's very good. Moon Boy, in Martin's defense, he's a mature age at 21. I guess all of Martin, Butters, Cogs have to go eventually. Yeah, as I said before, I'd just trade Martin just because he's a rookie. And like Butters has been playing bad, but he's been getting 60s, whereas Martin's actually played well in games where he's got 60s. So yeah, I'd keep Cogs and Butters, I think, over Martin, just purely for the fact that those guys can move on their buy. You can still move Martin on your buy. If you want to get rid of Butters or Cogs, for me, it's almost flip the coin with the three. You can get rid of either. I'd probably keep Cogs out of the three just because of the whole new coach, could play more midfield. Butters and Martin, you can flip a coin who you want to get rid of, but Butters has got a better role, but his scoring hasn't eventuated there. So Jacob Rivers again. So tick of VC McRae and captain on Neil if he doesn't go 120 plus. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing this week. I've got McRae as my VC and Lachie Neil as my captain. I probably won't be able to take his score though because I don't have anyone not playing. At the moment, the only guy in my squad before trades, the only players in my squad not playing, Whitfield, O'Driscoll, and Brady Hoff. And O'Driscoll and Whitfield are going for me this week more than likely. And Hoff, I won't take the chance on. Actually, I can take the chance on Hoff this week because, hang on. No, because all my emergencies are playing in their lines. So maybe not. It'd be something I could look at. Yeah, so maybe not. But yeah, if you've got the option to do that, that's definitely what I'll be doing, Jacob. So yeah, definitely tick that off there. JS says Mills and Zorko or Laird and Stewart. So Mills and Zorko, Laird and Stewart, or Witherdin. Sorry, hang on. I've got you. Mills and Zorko, yep. or Laird and Stewart, Witherdin or Dawson? Okay, got you. So out of Stewart, Witherdin or Dawson, I'd probably cross off Stewart just because he is expensive. He's a lot more expensive than those other. He's near 850 now, so he's probably too expensive to really bring in, even though it has been really good. So it'd probably be between Witherdin and Dawson. And again, I'd probably rather Dawson over Witherdin just because again he's a little bit cheaper than Witherdin. Witherdin's been great. His lowest score is 91. He's got 3 scores in 90s, 91, 92, and 97. Then he's gone 100, 102, 170, 112. So he's been ultra consistent. But Dawson's run after his bye as well, I just think that's a better bargaining chip there. So I'd rather Dawson. So Laird and Dawson or Mills and Zorko. That's really, really hard. That's really hard. Good. That's best question of the day. Mills and Zorko or Laird and Dawson. And I'm trying not to be biased with the Crows thing. That Crows run though from round 12 onwards is juicy. If the round 13 bye is not an issue, I'd be very tempted to be going Laird and Dawson. I think you go Mills and I think you might have to go Mills and Zorko just because Mills is looking amazing at the moment. And Zorko, I said Zorko Dawson's a bit of a flip of the coin. I'd personally go Laird and Dawson. I'd bring in Mills at a later date. But yeah, the correct decisions, probably Mills and Zorko. At the end, I think it might come down to whoever you want, really, because they're not going to be too dissimilar. Laird's ultra consistent. Mills is looking amazing. Zorko's looking really good, and Dawson's looking good as well. So yeah, probably just comes down to what you want. But I'd probably go Mills and Zorko just because you're probably not going to put Laird captain next 2 weeks. Mills you can put captain over the next 2 weeks. So Joe Key says Zorko or Dawson. It says Zorko of Dawson. So I'm assuming you're meaning Zorko or Dawson and then Laird or Brayshaw. So I'm assuming you're meaning Zorko or Dawson, then you mean Laird or Andrew Brayshaw. So I personally have said I'd prefer Dawson with this less injury risk over Zorko. But if you want Zorko over, that's a flip of the coin, that one. I'd personally prefer Dawson. But again, if you need the round 14 buy more, you can go Zorko. So, but if buys are an issue, I'd go Dawson. And then Laird or Andrew Brayshaw, again, very similar. If buys, this is a question for buys. If you need guys on round 14, Zorko and Brayshaw it is. If you get guys need on the round 13, Laird and Dawson, you guys. But if you're talking about purely who's going to score more rest of the year, I think it's probably going to be Zorko and Brayshaw to score the most. But the run of the Crows after with Dawson and Laird, that's very tempting. So I personally would choose Dawson and Laird, but Zorko and Brayshaw, or Zorko and Laird, you could probably go. Again, comes down to who the buy structure, and then again who you want. So, but yeah, probably Zorko and Brayshaw is probably the better call. But yeah, Laird's just a machine. So, but it could be. I don't know. That's a very hard one. Barney George says Whitfield for crisp or short with a bit of cash next week. So, I'd personally go short, just with Crisp is sick. If he gets an 80 or a 70, he's going to drop in price. He's more expensive. Short's playing midfield. So I'd go short out of the two. He has got the worst buy. So the buys are a bit of an issue for you and you need round 14 instead, then I'd go Crisp. But if buys don't matter, then I'd be going short. So I'd go short. Tim Ashworth says, "Can you help with my trades, please?" It depends what trades you want to do, mate. I need a bit more than. Can you help with trades? Oh, here we go. So Tim Ashworth says, "Steele to Took and nod to Cleary for your D." Nod to it says Clary, but I'm assuming you mean Cleary for D6 or nod to someone at 600k. Steele to Took, I tick off. I think it's a good trade. I think Miller Took's going to be good for the rest of the year. Nod to Cleary, I wouldn't do it D6. I wouldn't trust Cleary on your field. Nod to someone at 600k. So if you're looking purely based on any position, let's have a quick look at 600k, and then we'll answer the last couple of questions from Porter Dennis and Moonboy, and then that'll probably be about it. But 600k is not many options. Like if you haven't got Darcy Cameron, you could jump on him. Yeah, it's a bit barren down there. I wouldn't jump on Taran Thomas. I just haven't seen enough from him to look at him. Still, Sobom is 548k. He just hasn't had a good score all year. Just been ridiculous how bad his scoring's been. got another 59 last week. Yeah, it's a bit sad with that. I wouldn't jump on Connor West. Yeah, there's not really anyone there. So maybe Kadeem Coleman's probably the best guy you could get because you could trade him around 14. I'd probably go Coleman if you're looking at someone there. That's probably what I would do, Tim, for that one. If you go, I would prefer not going Miller, and it's Miller and Coleman, or I'd personally rather go down further and I'd bring in that's where I would bring in a Sarong, Warner, or Taylor Adams, and I'd probably rather, I'd personally rather Warner. I just think Warner's a great player. I'd probably go Warner. But then if buys are an issue, go Sarong. So I'd go Sarong and then get a better player. That's probably what I would do. So, yeah, you said defenders. So, yeah, Coleman's probably the best bet out of those guys, I think. So Porter Dennis says, who goes first out of Butters, Nick Dacos, Cornelio, Nick Martin? That's the question on everyone. That's a hard one. I think Nick Dacos stays just because of the fact he's got around 40. But if buys, okay, so I'll answer with buys being an issue and then with buys not being an issue. So if buys you need them for, Dacos is fourth, Cornelio's third, Butters is second, Nick Martin's top, I think, just because of the round 12 buy. Nick Martin's a rookie. That's why I'd get rid of Nick Martin first, right? So if buys are not an issue, I'd probably go Dacos one, just because I think Dacos' scoring's dried up. I think Martin can score higher. For Chile's buy, so I'd go Dacos 1, Martin 2, Butters 3, Kinnear 4. That's what I would personally do. But if buys are the, which is the question for a lot of people, I'd probably go Nick Martin first. But if you want to go Butters over Nick Martin, there's no issue with doing that either. So Moonboy, downgrade a rookie, Gibcus to Karmas, and then bank the money for next week, or trade Martin or Butters to Cameron. With the fact that they have said that this Cameron thing is a bit of a Mason Cox be the number one, which I still don't think it will happen, but that would probably steer me away from Cameron bringing him in this week. I wouldn't trade him out, but I'd steer away from him. So I'd probably go Gibcus on your bench to Karmas, because Karmas will play during the buys. Gibcus has made a lot of money, got the round 12 buy, gives you a lot of money for next week. I'd probably do that. That's what I'd do there. James English says, mate, you skipped my question, Zorko, or did I? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, James. Thank you for putting your question in second time. Otherwise, I would have missed that. But yeah, thank you. There is not normally is there a lot of questions coming through, but I am glad there is a lot of questions through. We've got a lot more people watching last couple of episodes, which has been really good. I've enjoyed that. Enjoyed interacting with more people. So you said, mate, so Zorko or Doherty for Whitfield? Again, if buys are an issue, it's going to be a bit of a common theme over the next couple of weeks. If buys are an issue, you go Zorko. If buys aren't an issue, I'd probably go Doherty, just because I think Doherty is going to be the number one or number two scoring defender, and he just looks so good this year. So I'd probably go Doherty. But if buys aren't a issue, then I'd be doing that. So hang on. James, I'm currently ranked 13, so pressure is on for the right answer. Oh, mate, what are you asking me for questions for? Yeah, there you go, shuckers. What are you asking me for questions for, mate? I'm ranked, what, 6,736, and you're ranked 13, mate. You don't need my advice. But nah. Well, funny enough, I could probably help you a little bit more in depth here, because I can actually look at your team and who you could go instead. So your buys are, so you got Short and Whitfield on round 12. You got Sisley and Crisp on round 14, Dawson round 13. So if buys aren't an issue, I would go Doherty. I think Doherty's going to be the better scorer for the year. He's been top two. Zorko's another good option, but you have got that little slight risk that he could do something mid-game and could cost you. Whereas Doherty, I don't really see him getting injured at all. So, yeah, I'd be going Doherty there if buys aren't an issue. If buys are an issue, you go Zorko. Adam Partiwala says, another trade option, Caldwell and Whitfield to Berry from the Crows and Neil or Oliver, or Whitfield and Caldwell to Zorko and Newcomb. Thoughts? So, out of Neil and Oliver, I'd go Neil over those two. So Neil and Sam Berry from the Crows, or Zorko and Newcomb. I'd probably go Zorko and Newcomb. I think that Newcomb better scorer and consistent scorer over Berry. I think so. That's what I'd probably go. Moonboy, thanks, legend. Love your work. Good luck this weekend. Thank you very much, Moonboy. You too as well. Thank you for tuning in as well. James English says, I'm thinking Doherty will give me a 10, 10, 10, so not too bad. Yeah, perfect. That's what you want. You want a 10, 10, 10 or an 8, 10, 12. That's the two ones I normally aim for. 10, 10, 10 is perfect. Your buys are set up perfect, ready to go. You're getting rid of what? Who'd you say? You're going Zorko. You're getting rid of a guy not playing. So, yeah, I tick them off, and that's very good. So, anyway, that's probably it for, we've gone for a while, an hour and 30. It's probably the first time I've gone for an hour and 30. We've got a lot of questions this week, so if we get this many questions, might not be able to answer all of them, but I'll try my best to always answer all the questions because I do appreciate people tuning in. So my trades this week, so it all depends on tonight. If one of Paddy McCartan, Jack Carrot, or Corey Durden score a 70+, I would preferably want an 80 or 90 to make the decision a lot easier, but if they get a 70, maybe 60. I'll have to think that out. But if they get a good score, one of them, I'll keep Whitfield and I'll go Hugh Dixon to Baku Karmas on my bench and I'll go Nod to Petrarca because I've got 400k in the bank. It allows me to do that. But if they all fail, which I imagine they probably will all score under 50 this week, I would probably then go Whitfield to Zorko and Nod to Wines. That's probably what I'm looking at. I'm getting two good players. You're getting a Wines underpriced premium, and I'm bringing in Zorko top 6 fan. I've already got Dawson. That's why I'm getting Zorko in instead. The other option I've got there, I can go Petrarca and Daniel Rich, which that is an interesting option because it could work better for my buys with Petrarca being round 14 and Rich. I'd rather Zorko over Rich, but Rich could be solid enough anyway. That's something I'll look at, but it's probably going to be Zorko and Wines. That's probably what I'm assuming will be. But again, you never know what the scoring is going to be like tonight. So we'll just have to find out. So James English, cheers, mate. Subscribe. Thanks, James. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, you're watching live, click subscribe button. I'd imagine I'm on 409 now with James, unless someone else has subscribed during the stream. 410. So thank you very much. Someone did subscribe. So whoever that was, unfortunately, I don't get notifications to see who does. So unfortunately, I can't shout you up. But James, I can shout you. Actually, let me know. So if you are watching live and you haven't subscribed, please do. It does help out a lot. We're only 90 away now from 500. And if you are enjoying the content as well, make sure you click the like button as well. Does help out as well. It only takes a couple of seconds to do, so it should be pretty easy. And also notifications, turn them on so you know when I go live. I go live every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time. So 4:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. And then on Sunday, I go live after the final game, normally around 7 o'clock Australian Central Standard Time. So about 7:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time for that. But if it's a later game, I go after that game. So it just depends when the late game is, but it's normally about 7 o'clock. So that's what happens. All social media links in the description below. So if you have got another question, I haven't answered your questions, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. More often Twitter's the one I answer, but either or is I'm happy to answer questions there. Hit me up there and follow me on all those social media platforms as well. And also, if you haven't as well, read the weekend forecast written version over on DT Talk. Link to the website is in the description below. So that's the Traders website. So go check that out. Go check all the content getting ready for round 10. Good luck, everyone, this week. Hope you guys do well. Hopefully your trades will go smoothly. Hopefully mine do as well. And I'll see you guys on Sunday night. And I'll see you then. So I'm out. Cheers.